young guys come in as Marines. I mean, some of them just look like they just ready. I mean, I talked to a few of them. They were ready to get on the ground in Iraq, like right then and there. They were mad they even had to stay at the MEP station that long. Look at these guys like so ready to kill. You know, where's this coming from? So, so then, and a lot of this was culture shock for me, because I had never really been around an environment quite like this. But, I went through the process, got to boot camp. I'm going to tell you right now, I barely survived, physically at least. I hadn't worked that hard physically, probably since I was a 12-year-old little football player at Gresham Park. I mean, we ran miles and miles. Wow. This is the Navy, so I'm sure it would kill me in the Army. I left there and got stationed at Fort Meade, Maryland, which is right between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. This is, I think, where some of the activism began to start. And it began to start because, number one, they sent me to an A school. A school in the Navy stands for apprentice school. It is the school that when you come out of boot camp, they actually train you in your actual job assignment. I chose to be what was called a photographer. Now, I don't know anything about photography, but the reason I chose the rate is because they told me that they were going to be combining these jobs in the Navy. That would give me a chance to be a journalist in the Navy. And I said, okay, right. But they stationed me in an area that I just left with all my activist friends. So you know what I was doing, right? I mean, I was getting off the base and going to see my people and see what was going on. This struggle against police brutality and racial profile was still taking place there in Prince George's County. This coalition that I helped to form, that with the boot camp, now I'm back in the same area. So when we're in A school, you're staying in like dormitory-like conditions. And I'm talking to my friends and whatnot in A school. They're like, hey, John, what you about to do? Well, I said, I'm about to go to one of my good friends, Dorothy Elliott's house, and she was showing a film, a documentary about her son who was killed by the police. Oh, well, can I come? Sure. Take about 4 or 5 of them over there. They watch the documentary, right? These young people are like, well, how can I get involved? So now I'm getting guys and girls from the base, to come to the meetings. Some of the command heard about it. Tried to restrict us, tried to use all kind of false rules, but then we was calling the GI rights hotline saying, they're trying to stop us from getting off base and whatnot. So this is where some of the early undergirdings of activism within the ranks began to start. In fact, I had about 7 of my colleagues from Fort Meade. We was in front of the police station having a rally, calling for a number of these officers to be prosecuted who had done a number of these crimes and were still serving on the police force. This is where it first started, really, for me. And it was just because I was in the proximity. They stationed me in the area. I'm around my colleagues and my friends. I got stationed on the USS Theodore Roosevelt in September 2004. And that was a time when I first began to come up against, that system, if you will, within the military. Because when I first got to USS Theodore Roosevelt, I don't know if they had heard about me or heard some of the things we had done, but I certainly felt some repression about it from the first day I got there. You could just feel the intensity of it. In fact, it came to a head when, during the Christmas leave time, if I can explain some of this military stuff to you, during the leave periods, what happens is half of the ship is gone and half of the ship is there. So the half of the ship is there, they switch it off to make sure people get 2 weeks leave, kind of stacked. And so the half of the ship is there. If you're on what's called off-going duty is every 8 days you got to stay on the boat all day. It really sucks. But if you're on off-going duty, you get to leave early. At least in our shop you did. So a couple times, this belligerent E6 wanted to keep me after work, even though they let everybody else go. So I'm raising questions about it. He's just ignoring me, whatever. So okay, I'm not roger that. And, went on and made a friendly visit to the Equal Opportunity Office. I figured they got an Equal Opportunity Office. Maybe I should go over there and see what they think about people leaving people at work. Well, one of the things about struggle is that when you get involved in it, don't expect for the opposition just to lay down just because you decided that you're going to raise some issues and concerns, especially in the military where it's almost, where doing that is just seen as you being outside of the norm and the culture. So what ended up happening in situations, even though it got resolved, what happened is now I'm being watched, can you imagine, on every little thing that I do, okay? And what ended up happening is I got snowed in Washington, D.C. and not able to get back on time for duty one day. I mean snowed in, literally, can't get back to duty. in a situation like this, usually you make a phone call, you're fine. But in my situation, it was actually put in a certain context where it was my fault. Okay, this happened to me, and ended up having to go to a hearing before the executive officer. And the reason why it went that high is because when we got to disciplinary review board, I refused to admit that I had done anything wrong. I mean, it was other people in my shop who had gotten excused for duty for things that weren't even as severe. So I ended up, going through 24 hours of extra military instruction. Before they sentenced me to 24 hours of military instruction, I had left the boat for a while. I was on AWOL. I didn't tell my mom this. I was leaving the military. I said, forget this, I said, this place is arbitrary. They run it how they want to. They come up with these rules. They bend them. It's racist. It's sexist. It's oppressive. They already got me stripped from my family and everything. They don't pay enough. They talk to you like a dog. They curse every sentence. They get drunk all the time. Derelict activity. Everybody cheat on their wives. I'm like, who wants to work in this kind of place? And I'm going AWOL. AWOL in my mind means anywhere but here. I don't care where I go. It ain't gonna be here. And so, but ended up having a true story. They took me before this draconian board. They call it disciplinary review board. And the appearance of it is very. It's not really telling you what it really is. DRB, disciplinary review board. They really should call it a draconian shout at you, close the door, we might whoop your behind board. Because when I got in there, there's all these senior enlisted people, folks who have been in the military about 15, 20 years. If you see some of these cats, some of them look like if they weren't in the military, boy, they'd be in jail or be a bouncer or something like that. I mean, you know these guys, they talk to you, and talk like that, and got their tongue, they know with a big thing of snuffing and the bottom of their mouth, when they talk with a draw. I mean, it's really ridiculous. And these guys screamed and shouted at me. They called me everything but a child of God, Pastor. What a pastor. They called me, screaming and shouting. I sat there, I said, I ain't got to take this, forget this. So I went, when they weren't looking, they told me to go back to the shop, and before I got to the shop, just made a right turn, went right up the steps to the quarterdeck, saluted off and kept going. I didn't have a car at the time. Went over to Enterprise, rented a car, rented me a car. I was driving to D.C. And so as I was driving to D.C., I'll never forget this. I was mad as you know what. I'm respecting this house of God. But I was driving to D.C. and I called that mentor of mine I told you about, Rod. And I said, Rod, I'm going to AWOL, man. He said, well, I said, well, I can't put up with it no more. And he said, well, come over here and see me, man. Let's talk about it. So I went over to his house, and we talked for hours about this. This is my buddy Rod, anti-racist. My buddy Rod, anti-oppressive, police brutality coalitions, and he's the chair of the Anderson National Group at Howard. And he struggled with me to go back to the boat. Imagine that. And so I said, why would he do that? Well, Rod's thinking is this. And it comes out of a broader context. The context being that if you truly are trying to change an institution, that's what you're trying to do. Now, if that ain't what you're trying to do, then maybe you want to go AWOL. Or maybe you want to look at some other options. But what you're trying to do is change an institution, then you actually have to work within that institution, right? Think about it. When we go back to the struggle against abolition in this country, there were those who advocated for free blacks leaving, right? Going and immigrating back to Africa or somewhere else, but anywhere else but here, because the notion being this place is just doomed. Imagine had that policy been followed, that we wouldn't be here as we are today, right? So then I got to thinking about it. I said, okay, it sounds suicidal. I'm gonna go back there. But I went ahead and went back. Sucked it up, let these fools scream at me. Didn't say anything. It was quite a humbling experience, for me to do that, okay? But I said, okay. I said in my mind, I said, because these people are so emboldened by what they're doing, because they were, you got these guys in the shop that are doing these oppressive acts, and now you got the chain of command backing it up, okay? I said, because they're so emboldened by it, and because the cards are stacked against me now, I'm going to go ahead and take this for now. This was in